So you're able to fit it under the cap, under the window that you currently have. Is Cooper Kupp next, Les, for you?
Yeah, Cooper Kupp. He is next on the list.
Okay. Are you?
You nailed that for sure.
And so, when do you think that something like that gets done next with him?
Our intention is to come to, as you said earlier, a win-win, right? We'd love to do it before camp. We'd love to do it sooner than possible. But in these types of situations, right, when there's an element of, right, a player under contract, we feel like he deserves a raise. We want to get an extension. But with that, there's a lot of variables. Like there's objective variables, there's speculative variables. So sometimes it takes a little more time. It's not a microwavable situation to be creative and come up with a win-win for both Cooper and club, so that like Cooper can be rewarded, club can continue being successful in the moment and in the long term.
So then what is the window? What do you got? What's your idea of a window? And I know that's a dicey question to ask a general manager, but I'm going to ask it anyway. You mentioned a couple times a window.
It's a very dicey question. I can say this: we're a very boring organization where we're kind of main thing to main thing, one step at a time, really one game at a time, one phase at a time. So that's one thing. So right now we're going to focus on finishing up our mini camp. Then we'll focus on training camp. Then we'll get ready to face a very, very tough opponent in the Buffalo Bills, and we'll keep it that way. But I can tell you there's this, from a bigger conceptual window is I do think as long as we have a quarterback like Matthew Stafford and contributors like Aaron, contributors like Cooper Kupp, right, in their prime playing their best football, we definitely have a chance to be in the mix every year.
And is there money left for, say, like Odell, if Odell wants to come back? And, obviously Sean's been on this show saying he'd like him back. If I'm not mistaken, he crashed Sean's wedding this weekend, if I'm not mistaken.
There's only one person who could crash that wedding, but boy, Odell did it in a very, very, Odell, OBJ-like way, right? He just has the personality, the swag to pull that off, and it was cool. It was really cool to see. Because Odell, it was a really, really good time together with him. I think we all felt that the situation for him and him helping us, it was just a neat time to grow and bond, and him coming back and seeing some of his players. But yes, we've definitely talked with OBJ. I know his situation, right, based on the injury and how much he can't play, are going to affect, I would call it, this year's contract, maybe year one of a contract, but we've always had a plan, a vision that if Odell would like to be back, we definitely welcome him home.
So, again, I guess, and not to get too deep in the weeds, Aaron Donald hasn't taken up all the money, is what you're saying, in short order, right?
He hadn't taken up all the money, but I did tell Aaron yesterday that he's starting to get paid a little more like The Rock than he is a football player. I know he signed with Kanye, and I call it, that's his NIL group, and he's got some vision, so he's getting close to the Rock money. So, but you know what, we're definitely, Aaron's a big part of it, and a big part of the vision of, hey, not just being himself, but also, right, Aaron did make some sacrifices in this contract, even though he is well paid, and as I said a minute ago, getting paid a little more closer to the Rock. But he did make some sacrifices to allow us to do our part in building a team that can continue.
Well, I mean, you've reset a market at the position, or you could say Donald did it, and you just paid him accordingly, right? And then you've got Kupp, who you say is going to be paid, or at least the plan is to make that happen despite the variables that you mentioned. Does it cross your mind at all, Les Snead, that the team that you beat in the NFC Championship game that also happens to reside in your division has to pay their top defensive lineman and wide receiver as well, and you could set a market in a way that might cause an issue for them? Does that ever cross your mind, Les Snead?
Deep in the bowels, we're definitely competitive, and we like to bruise the enemy as much as possible. But I think in those situations, right, we're really focused on Aaron. We're really focused internally on us. And if we do this with Aaron, right, what's what's the second, third, and fourth, and fifth level domino effects from that contract, and how do we work around it? And I'm sure the Niners are doing the same themselves. They're focusing on themselves, trying to build the best Niners team as possible, so that right when we do battle twice a year, it's still one of those. Hey, it's one of those 15-round heavyweight fights for sure.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.